Welcome to the Real Board Loft. I'm Trip Foreman, and right here next to me we have Matt Biolos, which is something that Kelly Slater coined, buying waves, Biolos. So if you've ever kind of not really understood how to say it, it's Matt Biolos. Biolos. Yeah. And we are here to talk about the number one question on the surf. I'd probably say the surf world, but more specifically the surf internet. What is Matt riding? Everybody knows what Kelly rides, right? Like everybody knows what John rides. John rides these tiny little pencil sticks. But people want to know what normal human beings ride, So like if you're living in America, if you're living in Europe and you're over 6 feet tall, there's a pretty good chance that you're over 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And so they're always like, what's Matt riding? What's Matt riding? What are the numbers? So we're here to take a look at Matt's travel quiver. He's here on the East Coast of the U.S. Let's take a look at it and what Matt's riding right now. So Matt, take it away.
So I started with this because Virginia Beach, and I was walking up the aisle in my garage, and this is actually the very first Puddle Fish. And I made this board over a year ago. It was like midsummer last year. I probably haven't ridden this board since October of last year. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of called my name a couple days ago before I got on the plane to come out here. It's the very first Puddle Fish. I absolutely love this board. Midsummer last year going into fall. And then I hurt my knee really bad and I didn't surf for a few months. And I just forgot about the board. And then I knew I was going to VB and they said, hey, it's going to be surfable. So I thought, okay, if it's going to be surfable, that means need a waist high. So I threw this in the bag. It's a 5'10".
Or smaller for VB.
What?
Or smaller for VB.
Yeah.
They'll surf like, if it's ankle high, they're calling it
They're
surfable.
calling it rideable. But Chris Todd said, so it'll be need a waist high. You'll be able to surf.
Right.
So it's 5'10". It's just over 22 inches wide. Since that time, I've taken it down to 22. I don't ride this wide. This is like almost 22 and a quarter. But I ended up going 5'10" by 22 after this board. Mm-hmm. 2 7/8, and it's 42 liters of volume. But it's got a pretty tapered rail, It's kind of a flattish deck, and then the rail goes down. So when it's in your hand, it doesn't feel that boaty. Mm-hmm. And, it's the Puddle Fish, so what we did with this board is it's got a really straight stringer rocker, but it's got a good 1/4 inch of V here and almost a 1/4 inch of concave here, which means that the rail rocker has some arc in it. And that's kind of the magic of the whole Puddle Jumper, Puddle Fish series, is there's enough curve in the rail rocker where you can surf it vertically. You can go up and down the wave vertical, even if it's small. You can do little cheater like whips, like throw it up in the lip, front side or back side. You can do wraps, and you can surf it. It's not just a linear, like down the line classic fish kind of riding board. It's a little bit, it's got some performance. And that's because of the fairly radical rail rocker. The outline's pretty straight, especially from your front foot to your back foot. This whole zone's really straight. You get a lot of drive when you go up on a rail. The straight outline compensates for the kind of radical rail rocker curve. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So they work together. One's kind of straight, one's curvy. The tail rocker is well below 2 inches on a 5'10", so it's a really flat tail rocker. And this channel, I wanted to release the water. So the channel starts out, it's kind of a gradiating, the depth kind of blends off. It's not like a straight line where you're trying to gain speed with the channel. It's almost like releasing speed, like an exhaust.
Okay.
The radical corner here bites into the wave, kind of gives you a really, a solid feeling. And the cutaway here reduces surface area and also sort of bites into the wave, gives you some grip so you kind of don't slide out, I ride this board exclusively with the kind of split keel design. Originally I did with a futures design,
right.
kind of a
like
the Pavel split keel spin-off. And then I took the futures one and I made one with a little bit of my tweak to it, and then we ended up doing one with FCS as well. This one's set up for FCS. Love it. Futures just came out with a new balsa one that looks mind-boggling. I saw it on their website. I was like, I want one. So I really like that kind of fin setup.
What do you say to the people that look at those fins and just trip out? They're just like
trip out? No pun intended.
No pun intended. But they're like, I can't ride a fin like that. My friends are going to give me too much grief. What do you?
They are
a
little big. They're a little big. They're not for 130, 40 pound waves. They're a little big, but I like the straight up. The straight up allows you to like, you know, they don't have a lot of rake. They're kind of vertical, and it feels like you can just, they hold, but you can make sharp turns. So they turn a, I think they work really good with flat rocker boards.
Okay.
Boards that have a lot of rocker in them, I think they don't have enough rake to draw out your turns, but they kind of help you break a flat rocker board off its track and turn it. I just love them. I love them. But I'm well over 200 pounds. I think I was 207 before I flew.
And how tall are you?
Years ago. 6'1".
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I love them, and I think.
And why not, like on something like this? It's actually, especially on something like this, like why not carbon wrap?
Oh, I have a couple carbon wraps of these in the last year. I don't remember. I just didn't have one. We do carbon wraps. We just.
Right.
I've had carbon wrap puddle jumpers, carbon wrap puddle jumper rounds, carbon wrap puddle fish. I just kind of knew my boards were going to get beat up. I knew we were doing a demo,
Right.
and
right.
I just brought an Old Faithful.
I
just
gotcha.
knew this board, and you
is
know,
this board like
this
single
is why
glass?
not, because I knew stuff like this was going to happen. I let Bob Arzari, who's like the GM at 17th Street, he's been there forever. He's an awesome guy in Virginia Beach, and he took the board out and he got ran over.
Oh.
So you know, if this was a brand new, beautiful carbon wrap, I'd have been crying. But this board's already done its job and seen its day, so I just shrugged it off.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like you mentioned, and this is like a big question out there. You mentioned puddle jumper. Well, this is puddle fish, right? But you also just mentioned puddle jumper and the puddle jumper round.
Yeah.
Right? What would you tell somebody, and when they're like looking at this versus those two boards, like what are the main things that differentiate those three?
I think this one's the most grovelly.
Okay.
I think it's got the most squirt in really small waves. I think the puddle jumper, the original puddle jumper, the squash, is the closest, the most all-around board. Like it's almost like an all-around shortboard for a guy who rides fishies and hybrids. And then the puddle jumper round is a board that, for like a one-board quiver kind of guy that rides fish and hybrids. And the puddle jumper round has the most range.
Okay.
So the puddle jumper round works from knee high to overhead. It's got the most range. This board excels in knee high to chest side, and the puddle jumper original squash is kind of just an all-arounder.
Right.
Yeah. This one's probably the most extreme.
And where do you like to keep, like in this type of board, like where it's fitting into your quiver, like your weight, like around 207 right now, where do you like keeping your volume?
This board's 42 liters. This is my highest volume board I ride.
Okay.
Except my 6. Yeah, I actually go down in volume until I'm riding about a 6.8. Then when I hit 6.8, I'm back up at this volume because I'm in heavy water with currents and waves of consequence. But my 6.6 is like 41. My 6.4s and stuff are 40. But when I'm surfing really, really tiny waves, I like, instead of riding a longboard, your longboard's going to be 60, 80 liters. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's the number one, I mean, if you're going to pick out like one mistake that you see people like our size making, like with this type of board, like what is it?
Trying to match the volume of your shortboard, maybe? I don't know. But yeah, people are like, oh, I ride 26 liters, and your puddle fish, a 5.5 puddle fish is 31 liters or whatever it is.
Right.
I'm like, so it's your groveler. It's a toy. It's like, don't try and match your contest board or whatever your perception is.
Right.
So I just think that it's a fun. It's to get the job done. It's to enjoy. So it's not so much about the volume. It's more about the redistribution of foam and the amount of lift you get with the wide plane shape and the way that all the design elements work together to turn a crappy day when you might otherwise just decide to drink beer and do nothing, or
Right.
actually you're out there being active and surfing.
I mean, it was like yesterday when we were out at Cape Point and
Yeah.
Danny grabbed my beanbag.
Exactly.
Which is like, how much does Danny weigh? Like 170 maybe?
No, he's not. He's 150 probably.
And so my beanbag it's a 5'10" stock beanbag. It's like 43 plus
It's 43
liters.
liters.
Yeah, and he's like, he gets on that thing and
He's
just
doing roundhouses,
ripping
and
all over.
floaters.
He's getting the
Yeah,
job
yeah.
done, like you
Laughing,
said.
laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I jumped on it and caught a couple waves. I was riding knee-high waves on it.
Right.
Yeah. It's just fun.
That's what we're here for. So that's a good review on this board. Let's take a look at what you're riding for a shortboard.
Okay. So for a shortboard, I I heard, I mean, before I came, I knew there was going to be surf. And there was, oh, you're going to get waves, you're going to get waves. There's a little tropical storm. And I'm like, I've been out here before when they say it's going to be chest high, head high. And I've surfed out here with you, chest high, head high. And it's like sloppy, whatever. Sometimes it's clean and hollow, sometimes whatever. And I actually almost grabbed my favorite board right now, which is a 6'5" driver, squash tail, like a modern high performance, or a new Proformance series driver. And it's 6'5", 20.5", 2 7/8", 40 liters. I almost grabbed it, and I wish I would have, because when we got here today, the waves were like, it basically looked like Hossiger. You know, I mean, it was out front today. It's all around here. It was just like 4 to 6 foot plus, like Hossiger.
Right, right.
Maxing out, like heavy beach break. I didn't expect that. It was awesome to watch all the guys hucking themselves into sandy death pits this morning. But so instead I grabbed this board, and this is a 6'4", and it's a Voodoo Child.
Right.
And it's like a classic California shortboard outline, kind of reminiscent of you know, like a Golden Age era Channel Islands type thing from the 80s, with a nice hip, wide squash, and flatter deck, a little bit kind of full but down rail. And then the classic 80s beak nose, which a lot of the, when I came up in 87, 88, most of the shapers were doing these, sculpting these beautiful little beak noses, you know, with a low entry, the thickness carried way farther forward.
Right.
And then at the last minute, you taper the thickness by doing the beak nose. I wanted to carry that volume forward. It's got a low entry rocker, so it paddles fast. And as soon as you jump up, it's gliding. A lot of front foot drive. And then, you know, the Voodoo Child, what it has is a lot of kick in the tail. So it's got a real snappy, free, loose feeling off the back foot. Which this board was developed with Mason Ho, of course, the Voodoo Child. And it's just like it's like a really easy board to surf. You know? Unless you're a radical lead foot, like back-footed surfer, then it's not quite the rocker distribution for you. But for normal surfers, most of us pump off our front foot, and we do usually shorter, quicker, snappier turns than you maybe should if you're, you know, if you want to be a pro surfer. You know, it's like quick, boom, boom, and we have a lot of fun. So this is a board that I thought would be fun in the punchy beach breaks of, you know, North Carolina.
Right.
I didn't expect to ride this in VB. It's 6'4", it's 21, it's 2 7/8", it's about 40.5 liters. Yeah, it's got a lot of concave. It's got a lot of concave in the back third of the board. And that's because the stringer line's really straight and hollowed out from the center to the tail. But the rail rocker kind of stays high and curves quickly. So you have a lot of curve back here on your rail rocker, and a lot of big hollow opening for the concave, let the water flow through. It's got the hip in the outline so you can break it off track. You know, it's kind of wide here and wide here, but right where your foot goes, it's not really that wide, you know. And the width here at the hip gives you a straight outline, which gives you a lot of drive.
Right.
The lower entry rocker, ease of catching waves. Bit of a crutch, you know, a bit of an easy riding board. It's interesting, a lot of really good surfers like this board. I didn't expect them to be asking for it, but a lot of like the QS kids or the amateur, kind of American amateur kids started asking for them for contests. And that's kind of fun and cool. But for me, it's just an easy riding shortboard. I was fortunate to go to Indo for a month this summer. I went on a surf trip, and then I went and made a bunch of boards in Bali, and surfed a lot, and started riding the, you know, like high performance boards again. Pulled in noses and boards that kind of look like a regular board under your arm, you know, rather than the rockets or the Quiver killers and the hybrids, the round nose fishes. I started riding more performance outline boards, and then we launched the Proformance series in the last 30 days, and I feel like I'm kind of in on it. You know, I'm riding drivers, I'm riding this board, I'm not out there every day just riding Quiver killers and short rounds or Puddle Fish.
I mean, the one thing that I noticed about that board, like very first wave, is that it was the first time I had ridden like a really, really maneuverable loose shortboard that wasn't hard to ride. Like it wasn't like kind of finicky or nervous or like hard to catch. It was still just as easy to catch waves as any of my other boards, but the turn off the top was so much more pivotal, like with that extra tail rocker.
It's got an
coming out the back.
exaggeratedly low entry rocker, which was something that really stood out. The best guy in San Clemente in the 80s was Chris McElroy. McElroy made these amazing uppers boards. He was an uppers local, and he made these amazing trussels boards that Dino, obviously Chloe's dad, would ride around the tour. He made the tour, and they had this really. You look at the profile of the board like this, and it looked like the nose rocker just hung so low, and it just barely bent up, and then they wedged it down with the beak, and it had enough kick to do that quick, tight snap in the pocket. And the board just had this incredible linear down the line speed for the mushy California point breaks. And that board, those McElroys from the late 80s really influenced this board. And I think that's kind of the little secret, is it's got as much tail kick as like a WCT guy rides.
Right.
But it's got a low grovel. It's almost got a nose rocker like one of these boards. It's got like a full hybrid grovel entry rocker. The distribution of foam stays more towards the nose, so you got that chest, and it also drives off the front foot. The deck's flatter out farther, so you got the stability, and the outline's pretty darn straight through the middle because of the hip here.
Okay.
It works. It's fun. Certain people get distracted or kind of turned off by the beak nose, and we started doing custom ones. We just call it Voodoo Child.
No beak?
No beak. So I took the beak out, and guys are ordering them without the beak, and we do that custom for people.
So you talked a little bit about like lead back foot.
Yeah.
And this not being the right board. Like that's people are always trying to figure out their front foot, back foot, and then the rocker lines that match it. You've had some good feedback on that before in the past. Like why is a back-footed person gonna say something like the driver better?
When I talk about a back-footed person, I think the most extreme example with the surfers I work with would be Tyler Wright, world champ, #1 again this year right now. She's an extreme rear-footed surfer. Another surfer who's rear-footed but a little more balanced would be like Chloe and Dino. He loves surfing off the back foot. He loves a low tail rocker. Tyler Wright loves a low tail rocker, and there's if you look at some of the classic best-selling surfboards over the years, high-performance boards, like whether it's some of my older models or models like the Flyer from CI, or where the boards has a real long, drivey, flat tail rocker, flat-ish, and then the nose rocker basically right in front of the front foot starts to bend up more dramatically. And so for a rear-footed surfer, we have models like the driver or the sub-driver are kind of built that way. The Pocket Rocket's more the opposite. It's got a lower entry with a little more flip in the tail.
Okay.
And so those boards you kind of balance out. You have a little more lift in the nose and a flatter tail, so when you're really pushing and you're going into a cutback, you're using all that pushback off the low tail rocker, all that drive and carry through. But the added nose rocker, when it's put on a rail, the water pushes the board around really based off the nose rocker. It helps the board come around. You know what I mean? Where a low entry rocker like this, sometimes it might want to track out in front of you. So you got to kick that tail up and it brings it around. So, we work with people that surf both ways and to get the feedback. Taj Burrow's always liked a really quick, flippy board. He was so manic and he's so quick and he's such a unique surfer.
And low too. I mean, he's like down low on the board, super
he's,
low.
One of the 10 best surfers to ever live. But he likes plenty of nose rocker and tail rocker, where you get that twitchy, hard to ride board, and you need to be Taj Burrow to kind of ride some of those boards. Someone like an Ethan Ewing or something nowadays, or Felipe Toledo.
Right.
These guys are like that. There's not many of them. On the other end is like a classic would be a Taylor Knox. Tyler Wright is our lead foot. Chloe tends to like more tail rock, more nose rocker, less tail rocker.
And how do obviously those people they're so far in their surfing that they know that they're back foot or front foot.
Yeah, you don't even know.
and it's probably maybe do you when you look at them? So boiling it down, how can somebody tell which way they are?
A lot of times I'll look at someone, and if they have really big calves, they're usually a back-footed surfer. If they got little lucky legs,
Okay.
lucky they hold them up. They tend to
Chicken
be
legs.
more of a
Front-footed.
Front-footed. Even if they're not front-footed, they don't have a lot of power. They need that flip in the tail to snap with the skinny legs. Mason Ho, he's a down the line. He's got a nice, really utility, kind of a wider stance. He gets a lot of drive, but he needs that quick release off the tail to do his spontaneous, quick surfing.
Right.
You never know what he's going to do, and he can't do that without an overdriving board. Obviously, when he's surfing 10-foot pipe, he's riding those monster boards and all his antics. That's a whole nother world. But in small waves, he likes a really loose tail.
He wants something to be able to.
He loves the pocket rocket. He loves this sport.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're talking about working with all these different surfers.
Yeah.
It's like you're looking at them surf, and to the untrained eye, people will look at these different. They'll look at somebody on a not so good board or on a board that might not be suited to them, and they're still giving the impression that they're a pro and they're incredible, right?
Mm-hmm.
I heard you say something about Chris Ward in the board loft. I think it was actually last night when we were at Shapers Night. But you were talking about Chris Ward, and you were talking about what you can tell when he's riding a board that he likes versus riding a board that he doesn't like.
I'm talking like 15, 20 years. 15, 20 years ago.
Okay.
When Chris was young and, at the time, and maybe still today, the best 15-year-old surfer anyone had ever seen, 16-year-old surfer anyone had ever seen. I firmly believe that Chris is one example of a perfect surfer. Chris Amore, I think, is a perfect surfer. Mick Fanning, Joel Parkinson. There's a few people that are like almost perfect technique. I think Chris and Carissa are absolute perfect technique surfers. And when I would watch Chris as a teenager, he's never been the most verbal guy,
Uh-huh.
And if he's just pumping down the line and trying huge airs and everyone's like, whoa, usually meant he didn't like the board. He's just like, it doesn't do what he wants, so he's just going to go fast and do monster airs. When he started doing his Kern impersonations, when the 16-year-old kids just painting canvases like just absolute masterpieces, that's when you know he's riding a board he likes. And if he's just pumping and doing airs, I was like, that one's not very good.
Right,
What do you mean
right.
it's not good? He's doing huge ad. It's nothing. That's Rat Boy can do that at the time.
So, translating that to mortal surfers,
Mm-hmm.
what are you looking for what should somebody who's surfing and riding your boards or somebody else's boards, like what are the
I think you
feelings
need to have
that they're looking
speed
like?
and you need to be able to generate speed with ease,
Mhm.
and you need to be able to control that speed. So get speed and be able to do the turns you want to do. That's what everyone wants. That's the magic. So it's how do you balance your length, width, thickness, volume, rocker, outline, all the curves, all the different things, and have a board that you can catch waves on. That's number
Mhm.
one. Can generate speed, and then use that speed with control to do the maneuvers to the best of your ability, what your level allows.
And what's the difference between that board and then the magic one that you never throw away and you keep fixing?
The magic one, you get lucky and make a few more heats on it and think it's
Right.
magic. I don't know. The magic board is the board that you happen to be riding when the waves are perfect and you get more waves than you normally get and surf them well. And that board's magic, but maybe just the stars aligned and you did better with the crowd than you normally do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we got your new fins out. I guess this
Yeah,
is
they're
like
not out. These are
Or no,
prototypes.
they're on your board, but they're like next year's setup. Tell us
Yeah,
about
this is
those.
upcoming for FCS2. This is the template's still our template. This is the large. The graphics are different and the flex patterns are different. We've introduced a couple new materials. I'll let FCS explain it when the time comes, but it's a thin veil of carbon strategically placed to have some rigidity and allow flex. So basically it's the same templates. We did a large, a medium, and a small. New graphics that we worked on with Paul, the son of Cobra, some resin influence. They're more like art and color and fun based. Most of the trend in fins right now is going really technical and angular
Right.
color works. I wanted to keep with my art. So we did small, medium, and large, and we mainly just worked with a little bit with the foils and the flex patterns. The templates remain the same. But but using a little bit different materials and a little bit different flex. We softened the small one quite a bit to make it forgiving for the kids. The medium one is pretty much the same as it's been, and the large one we actually added a little rigidity to it.
In what part of the fin?
In the forward part and in the tip, so that it almost flexes in this area.
Okay.
Like a fish's fin. You know, we put this little veil of carbon paper here that kind of gives you drive off here, and there's like a
and then
freedom
almost
here.
like twist in the
Yeah,
in the
back
scallop of the fin in the back.
Scallop, there you go. So yeah, it's fun. I've been riding them for a few months. We've been getting the prototypes, and I've been handing them out to a few local friends, and letting them try them. Surfer's better than me.
Well, Matt, thanks for joining us. We're stoked to share all this information
Okay.
with the domesticated crew out there, with the 40-liter crew.
Yeah.
And yeah, man. Hope you had a great time on the Outer Banks. Thanks for joining us here in the Real Board Loft. If you got any questions, you give us a call at the shop anytime, 252-987-6000, or look us up online, realwatersports.com/surfing. Thanks for tuning in.